All you have to do is enter the access code and you're good to modify the program. So one option is to modify the standard SAP program provided by SAP to meet your company specific requirement. That is modifications. The other option is customer enhancements. Without modifying the program, without modifying the source code of the program, I can still get the functionality I need by using these customer enhancements. So we call it enhancement techniques. So there are different enhancement techniques we can use to enhance the standard SAP application to meet your company specific requirements. So that's enhancement. Now, these enhancements are available only if SAP has anticipated and provided some openings in the code where you can add your own code, right? So if SAP has not anticipated, then obviously there won't be any enhancements available for you to implement. In that case, and if you don't want to modify, you can also develop your own applications. So if you feel what is provided by SAP is not meeting your requirement, or you have some requirement for which SAP has not provided any applications for that specific requirement, then you can develop your own applications also, right? So how do we customize standard SAP program? We can develop our own applications, or we can enhance the existing applications, or we can modify the existing applications. These are the three options we have. And to do this, you need an ABAP consultant. You need somebody, all these applications are developed using ABAP programming language. So you need somebody who understands ABAP programming language so that he can either customize the standard SAP applications or modify them or develop new applications. So that's what your role is as an ABAP consultant. So when you join a company as an ABAP consultant, so you'll be working on either some new developments, you'll be developing new applications, or you'll be enhancing the standard SAP applications, or you'll be modifying. Right? So which one do you think we'll prefer doing? If my user says, I'm using this MM01 application to create materials, but it doesn't let me capture this extra information that I want to capture, so I'm not able to use this transaction to create a material, then the first thing I look for is, are there any enhancements available to enhance this application? If there are any enhancements available, I'll try to implement them to capture that extra information. If there are no enhancements available, then you can modify, but problem with modification is your code will be overwritten when you upgrade your system. So I'll be showing you how this modification and enhancement concept works. For example, let me quickly develop one program. Let me say, don't worry what I'm typing. If you don't understand, that's absolutely fine. Just try to understand the concept. Let's say this is a simple application. Let's assume this is a standard SAP application provided by SAP. So you cannot directly change this program without entering the access code. So for the time being, even though this is a program I've developed, let's assume this is a standard SAP program. So there's some code in this program. The functionality of this application is, if I input two numbers here, this will multiply these two numbers and show me the result. So this is the standard functionality provided by this application. So if you want to multiply two numbers, you can use this application. Now, in my company, I have a specific requirement where I don't want to multiply these numbers, but I want to add these numbers. whatever numbers I input on the screen, I want to add these two numbers instead of multiplying. That's the functionality I want. Whereas the standard SAP program is multiplying the numbers, and my user says for our requirement we should not multiply, but we should be adding these numbers. Right? So let's assume that's our company specific requirement. So since this application is multiplying the numbers, I cannot use this application to do my in my organization, right? Basically, because I want the numbers to be added. So what options do we have to customize this now? If I say modification, I'll directly go to the source code of this program and modify the code. So here, if I instead of star, if I say plus, then it will add the numbers. So this is modification, where you are modifying the standard SAP code. What's the problem you'll face if you modify? Now, when I upgrade the system or when I implement these support packages, then the new program, the standard SAP program, will come and replace this program. Since the new program will still have the code to multiply, my changes that I'm making here would be lost. So again, it will be becoming star here instead of plus, because the standard SAP program is having star. So the new program, which is replacing my current program in the system, would have star again. So after upgrading, again I need to go back and change this program to plus. Right? So if you are doing too many modifications in your system, then it becomes a very big headache to upgrade your system. If you after upgrading, you have to come back and redo all those changes, all those modifications you have done, because all of them would be lost. Right? So if you haven't done any modifications, let's say your upgrade project will take 1 month to complete, but if you have done too many modifications, your upgrade project may take 6 months to complete. Right? So you might have to spend 6 months in upgrading the system. So that's why many companies don't prefer modifying the standard SAP program. So modifying this program is ruled out. So I don't want this to be my first option. Then what other options do we have if I want to get the same functionality? The other option is customer enhancements. So how does this enhancement concept work? In the standard SAP program, if SAP has provided, if it has maintained the logic this way, there is no way you can enhance this application. So I would say there are no enhancements available for this application. But the same thing, if SAP, for example, we have something called a function module. I'm not too sure how many of you understand, so don't bother understanding. I'll just create one function module. So what I can do is, in the main program, SAP, instead of maintaining this program logic this way, if they call one function module and pass this data to this function module and get back the result. So instead of directly maintaining the logic here in the main program, if they're calling one function module here, if I execute this main program, it will still do the same thing. It is still multiplying these numbers. So the result is 6, right? But here, as a customer, if SAP has maintained their programming logic this way, so this is what I mean by openings in the code. Now, if I want to add these numbers, I don't have to change anything in the main program. I can keep this main program code as it is. Without modifying this main program, I can simply modify this function module which is called in the main program. So this would be in your customer namespace when they provide this as an enhancement. Here if I change it from star to plus, I'm changing this in a different program outside the main program. This is a completely different program, but this is called in the main program. So here I've changed it from star to plus. The main program code remains the same. So I'm not modifying anything in the main program. Now if I execute this, if I give 2 and 3 here, now instead of multiplying, it is adding the numbers. So I'm getting the functionality I need without actually changing the code of my main program, right? So this is how the enhancement works, right? So there are different enhancement techniques we use. So based on how this opening is provided, we call it either a user exit or a customer exit or a body, right? So we have different enhancement techniques available. So we'll be discussing about these enhancements in great detail later. There are so many other things you need to know before I talk about enhancements. So modification means you're directly changing the code. Enhancement means SAP has provided some openings. In this case, the opening is provided as a call to one function module. So you are actually changing the code in the function module without changing anything in the main program. Since this code gets executed when the main program runs, you are getting the functionality you need. So that's how enhancements are provided. So we are actually getting the functionality we need without actually changing the main program. Now customer developments, I don't want to modify, and let's say this main program is not calling any functional module, so there are no enhancements available. Then they have maintained the logic this way. So obviously I cannot enhance this. So what I'll do is, since I don't want to modify and there are no enhancements available, I can develop a new application in which I can add the numbers. So I can develop my new application and tell my user that don't use the standard SAP application for your job, use this new application which I've developed. So if you want to create a material and if the standard SAP application is not letting you capture that extra information, don't use the standard SAP application. I've developed a new application for you which works just like this standard SAP application, and along with the option to capture that extra information. So use this new application to create a material. So you can develop your own applications also. So these are the different ways you can customize the standard SAP software. Any questions? Vivek? Vivek, you have a question?
Hello.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
See, in the main app source itself, we have called that function. So we are modifying the main source code itself.
No. I'm just telling you that assuming if SAP has maintained the code this way, they've already maintained the code this way, they're already calling this function module. This is a Z program, custom program I developed, but I'm just trying to give you an example. So if the main program was maintained this way, then I can achieve my functionality without changing anything in the main program.
So that function you are changing?
I'm changing the function module.
Okay, fine, thanks.
So my main program code remains the same. So even if I upgrade, I won't be losing anything because the new program will also have the same code. So I haven't changed anything. So my changes would not be lost.
Okay, understood. Okay, thanks.
And those who don't understand what is this function module, what code I'm typing, don't worry. This is just one example to show you how things work. Right? So you can ignore all this. As long as you understand the concept, that's sufficient. Subha Reddy? Subha Reddy, you have a question?
It's okay, nothing.
You can lower your hand. Those who are done with your questions, please lower your hand. Gopi?
Hi, Kiran.
Yeah.
What if the function module is also a standard one?
No. If the function module is also standard one, then it's not called enhancement. In enhancement, these function modules will be in your customer namespace. For example, if you want to see this,